In a dark room in a dormitory, Ada was sitting in front of her mirror, brushing her long, curly-haired wig. She sighed, admiring the way the golden hair shone under the dim light. It was her most expensive wig, one she had ordered from an international seller. She had worn it earlier in the day, but as usual, she had lent it to her best friend, Esau, who had just given it to her an hour before. A frozen shiver ran through the chains of Ada. Something was wrong. Her fingers trembled as she was about to put the wig back on the mannequin. Suddenly, boom, the lights flared. Then the room plunged into darkness. A strange and oppressive presence filled the air. Ada's breath stopped when she heard a barely audible whisper. "Ada, Ada!" She froze. Her reflection in the mirror faded. Then a dark and distorted version of herself gave her a sinister smile from the inside of the glass. She screamed. Everything became black. Before these strange events, before the betrayals and the whispers in the shadows, before the world of Ada turned into a nightmare, there was friendship, beautiful, indestructible. At least that's what she thought. Had and Esau were best friends since childhood. They grew up together in the heart of the city of Benin, in the streets of Oziu, where the aroma of bunga soup and spicy snails floated. Their mothers were close, their fathers were business partners, and their bond was considered as a thread woven by the gods. When they were both admitted to the prestigious Royal Heritage University, it was natural for them to become tenants. Ada came from a rich family, while Esau, although not poor, had never known the luxury in which Ada bathed. Ada had everything: beautiful clothes, luxury handbags, the latest iPhone, and especially, oh, these PERRUQUEs. They aroused so much desire. They had all kinds of them. Long, short, curled, smooth, wavy. PERRUQUEs made with the most beautiful human hair imported from Brazil, India, and Vietnam. And they were generous with them. Esau, who had only one or two synthetic PERRUQUEs, often borrowed Ada's. At first, it didn't bother Ada. "You know I can't let you out like that. Here, take this one, it will pull like a miracle." Esau was always excited, put the wig on and put it back on a few days later. But something strange started to happen. Every time Esau put a wig on, Ada felt uncomfortable. At first, it was just small things, light words of mind, sudden stutters. But then the dreams began. She would see herself in strange places, in dark forests, in ancient sanctuaries, standing in front of masked figures who would whisper words she could never remember at her wake. Yet, she ignored all of this until the real nightmare began. Everything began with an unexpected failure. Ada had always been a brilliant, disciplined, and hardworking student, but one day, after passing an exam she was sure she passed, she discovered with shock that she had obtained an F. She did not believe her eyes. Determined to understand, she went to see the professor, Dr. Okosan, a strict but just man, and begged him to check again. He performed, but there was no error. The copy in front of him was his, but the writing was almost unknowable, with griffins and sentences clear. Ada was disconcerted. Then other incidents followed. She started to lose objects, her bracelet in gold her favorite, her shoes of creator, even money. Her bank card disappeared to reappear in places she had already searched. The screen of her phone was crackling mysteriously. And one evening, while she was standing in front of her mirror, she saw a silhouette standing behind her. She turned around, but there was no one. Yet, she always refused to believe that something abnormal was happening, until the day she vanished in the middle of the campus. At her wake, she was at the hospital. Esau was at his hand, eyes full of worry. "Bestie, you scared me. You work too much. You need to rest." Ada gently shook her head. But deep down, something was wrong. The breakup point was a fateful evening. Ada became more cautious. She had started locking her wig in a special drawer, only occasionally lending them. That night, Esau begged her to borrow one of her most precious pearls for a party. Just for tonight, please, my sister. I'll give it to you tomorrow morning, I promise. Ada hesitated. Something in her shouted no. But she didn't want to seem selfish, so she gave up. That night, she couldn't find sleep. She kept turning in her bed, her heart tight, until she heard voices. The sound of the jumps accompanied other whispers. Right under the window of their dormitory. Intrigued, Ada slowly rose and slipped towards the window. Her heart almost stopped. Essa was holding onto a hose, accompanied by two women with a strange look. In her hands, she held Ada's wig. One of the women, an old lady marked with tribal scarification, took the wig, lifted it, and began to psalm. Ada's blood froze, and so had always told her that she was giving the wigs back after carrying them. But the truth was much more terrifying. She took them elsewhere. But why? Why? With a beating heart, she heard the old woman murmur, "Her destiny is already changing." Ada stepped back, trembling legs. Esau was the cause of all these misfortunes. His own best friend. Tears burned her eyes. She wanted to vomit. How could she? All this love, all this kindness, was it a lie? Esau was not content to borrow his wigs. She offered them for something darker, something that was beyond Ada's understanding. And it worked. Ada had lost her notes, her money, her peace of mind. She had to stop that. She had to fight. But how? And above all, wasn't it already too late? Ada was still frozen in front of the window, her breath cut, her heart beating violently against her thoracic cage, threatening to break the walls. The reality struck her like a devastating wave. Her best friend, her sister, Esau, was behind all this. The whispers outside continued, but Ada could no longer hear them. She backstabbed her until her bed, her spirit in a state of ebullition. What was she supposed to do? Confront Esau? Pretend not to have seen anything? Run? She had no answer. The next morning, Esau came back with the wig, a big smile on her lips, and gently placed it in Ada's hands. "Bestie, thank you, this wig is so beautiful. You should have seen how everyone admired me yesterday," she exclaimed, turning joyfully. Ada forced a smile, hollowing her head, but her fingers burned, holding the cursed wig. She noticed something sinister in the eyes of the waters. A fleeting flash, an indescribable glow. Something wrong. But she said nothing. She was too scared. Days passed, and Ada felt more and more ill. The words of an empire. Waves of fluttering pain left her stunned and weak. Her skin, once sparkling, of wine tarnished and lifeless. Then they went to nightmares. Every night, they found themselves trapped in a dark and infinite forest. Hearing whispers in an unknown language, hands came out of the shadows, grabbing her, pulling her hair, whispering her name. Ada, Ada. She woke up soaked in sweat. Her heart was crazy, terrified. Her friends began to notice her change. "Ada, how are you? You don't look well." One of her classmates, Ivy, asked her after class one day. "You're losing weight." "Oh, that's heartbreak," joked another girl. Ada forced a laugh, shaking her head. "I'm fine, just stressed." But she wasn't fine. Then the worst happened. One morning, she woke up to discover red, itchy patches, who stretched out on her arms. She shut out a horrified scream. "What is that?" she murmured, scratching her skin. In a few days, the eruptions spread. Her back, her neck, even her face were invaded. But that was not all. Painful wrinkles appeared, huge, red, full of smell, burning. She could no longer hide them. Her friends began to avoid her. Some would say it was spiritual. That's karma. She loved to make the bell. Maybe she learned something she shouldn't have. It's not a normal disease. It needs delivery. Even her teachers noticed her condition. Her favorite teacher, Dr. Ozen, called her after class. Ada, my dear, have you seen a doctor? She'll shake her head. Yes, sir, but the medicine isn't working. The professor sighed, his expression serious. Go home, child. Get some help. That night, as she lay in bed, Esso entered the room. Bestie, what's all this? She asked in a falsely worried voice.